When you hear the word brainwashing, you probably think of cults. You probably think of manipulation, deceit, and someone kind of losing their self to a cult leader. Something that happened to other people and something you could never fall for. But here's what I want you to consider. You have already been brainwashed. Not by a cult though, but through your environment, by what you have repeatedly experienced, and by every emotionally charged moment you had to live through before you were old enough to question any of it. The only question is whether you are going to let the programming happen to you unconsciously, or whether you are going to become the one who consciously programs herself. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you are getting subconsciously programmed, why most attempts of rewiring or reprogramming doesn't work, and 3 specific tools you can start to use today to deliberately brainwash yourself into your desired reality. So let's get into it. Your subconscious mind doesn't think critically. It doesn't evaluate, debate, or question like your conscious mind does. It simply accepts what it is exposed to and interprets everything as truth. Have you ever seen the movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey? That is basically your subconscious mind. It says yes and okay to everything you tell it. It doesn't ask questions or debates. So if you tell your subconscious mind the same thing over and over again with emotion, it starts to interpret what you are saying as a fact, as a truth, as just the way things are. And that is not a flaw, however, that it was just how your subconscious mind was built, because your subconscious mind is like an efficiency machine. Its job is to automate as much as like your human experience as possible, so your conscious mind doesn't have to make thousands of decisions every day. For example, your heart keeps beating and your food keeps on getting digested and your immune system runs on autopilot without you even consciously needing to make it happen. You don't have to make a conscious choice to digest your food. So your subconscious mind handled that automatically. And the same thing goes when you are learning a new skill as well. Just think about the first time you learned to bike. Every moment needed conscious effort and concentration at first. You had to think about balance and steering and paddling all at the same time. And it felt kind of overwhelming, didn't it? But once you practiced enough, it became automatic. You stopped thinking about paddling because your subconscious mind took over and handled it for you. And the same thing goes with your beliefs as well. But in order to automate smoothly, your subconscious mind needs to know what's familiar, what's expected, and what's safe. And it figured that out through 2 things, either through repetition or emotionally charged or intensive moments. Repetition is how something becomes normal. The more you are exposed to something, either a belief, a dynamic, a way of seeing yourself, the more the subconscious encodes that as familiar, as just the way things are. And it becomes the lens through which you see yourself and the world, and also it becomes your assumptions about what's real and what's possible. And the other thing, and emotional intensity, is how something becomes deeply wired. A single experience with enough emotional charge can create a belief that shapes someone's entire life. For example, one moment of profound shame or one experience of rejection or heartbreak can really set the tone for the rest of someone's life. So the nervous system really remembers or pays attention to that intensity. It remembers it and builds a belief around it as a protection, so you don't have to experience that same pain or heartbreak or whatever you experienced again. And that's also why you are getting triggered when you encounter the same or a similar situation again later on. So your nervous system recognizes that pain or that pattern, and it fires the alarm before your conscious mind even have a chance to assess whether that is a real threat or not. So the reality you are living in, the patterns and loops you keep finding yourself in, the dynamics in your relationships, your beliefs about yourself, about money, about love, about what's possible for someone like you, that is not random. None of that is random. It was programmed through years of repetition and emotionally charged experiences, which then formed into subconscious beliefs and assumptions like, this is how I perceive things, this is who I am, this is what I expect, and this is normal for someone like me. And a lot of the beliefs and assumptions that we still are holding today as adults, they were actually programmed before the age of 7, before we even had the capacity to evaluate whether they were actually true or not. But here is the part that are actually changing everything though. The mechanism that installed the old programming is exactly the same mechanism you can use today to reprogram or rewire your brain. And yes, that is through repetition and emotional intensity, because the subconscious mind can actually not tell the difference between what are happening to you in real life and what you are vividly imagining. It only responds to what it is exposed to with consistency and emotion, which means that you are not at the mercy of your past, and you never were. Your past doesn't dictate how your future can look. You just didn't know that you actually were holding the remote. My guess is that you have probably already tried different things in order to change your life. Maybe you have journaled, maybe you have tried affirmations and mindset work, but it hasn't really worked. Maybe it even feels like you have tried everything. So I want you to understand why it hasn't worked. Because it's not that you are not capable enough or that it's not possible for you to change. Here is what is actually happening. Most effort of changing are only happening at the conscious level of your mind. You rely on willpower, you are convincing yourself something will work, even though you maybe don't believe it, and you are putting in so much effort and hard work, even though you are secretly talking down to yourself or talking negatively to yourself in a way that contradicts everything that you are trying to build. But here's the thing, research suggests that vast majority of our mental capacity and activity, some actually estimate as much as 95%, is subconscious, meaning the part of your mind you can consciously access and direct is just like a small fraction of what is actually running the show. So that subconscious part, that is where your automatic reactions live, your default emotional states, your beliefs, your assumptions, your unconscious choices and behaviors. So whether you realize it or not, it is actually your subconscious mind that is creating your day-to-day reality. So when your conscious efforts of changing doesn't match your subconscious programming, the subconscious always wins, unfortunately. Not because you're weak, but because you are trying to override a deeply ingrained program you have probably been running for years or even decades with single affirmations that you said out loud on a Tuesday morning whilst doing your makeup. And I don't say this to make you feel bad, but doing affirmations alone without speaking directly to your subconscious mind or in the language that your subconscious mind understands doesn't actually work, or it is not enough at least, because the conscious mind speaks in logic and intention. The subconscious speaks in repetition, emotions, images and sensations. So if you actually want to reprogram, not just like intellectually understand, but genuinely shift at the level where it changes your identity and your reality, you have to communicate in the language that your subconscious mind actually understands. And that's exactly what the 3 tools I'm about to share actually do. They are not tricks or hacks, they are just the same language that brainwashed you in the first place, but used deliberately and by you and in the direction that you actually want to go. The most underestimated reprogramming tools that are available to you in this moment are actually all around you. It is your environment. Everything you consume, everyone you spend time with, every conversations you have, every piece of content you watch, and the music and podcasts you're listening to, and every voice you let into your head on a regular basis, all of it is feeding your subconscious consistently, whether you are paying attention to it or not. Think about it like this. If you grew up in a household where money was always discussed with stress and scarcity, where the dominant narrative was, we can't afford this, or money doesn't grow on trees, or people like us don't have that, your subconscious absorbed that as normal, not through any dramatic events, but through years of exposure. Through repetition, the subconscious quietly formed a belief around money without you even consciously deciding to believe it. And the same process are happening right now, today, as we speak, with everything that you are exposing yourself to. For example, the people you spend the most time with, what do they believe is possible for them? What does their lives reflect as normal? What do their conversations reinforce about money or love, success or identity? Because whether you realize it or not, your nervous system or your subconscious are absorbing the frequency of the people and the environment around you. So their ceiling becomes a reference point for you, and their normal becomes your normal. And this also extends to what you consume online, the accounts you are following, the content you are watching, what you listen to whilst you're getting ready in the morning. It's all input, and all input are a form of programming, which is either reinforcing the old identity or building the new one. So the question to sit with is, if you did a really honest audit of your daily environment, the people, the content, the conversations, the voices you let in most consistently, what identity is it programming you into? What does it tell your subconscious is normal? What does it say about who you are and what's available for you? But don't get me wrong here, this is not about cutting everyone off or just consuming positive content. It's about becoming conscious of what you are exposed to and making deliberate choices about what you allow to have consistent access to your subconscious. So the only question is whether you let the environment work for you or against you. The second tool is one of the most powerful, but it is probably also one of the most misunderstood. And that is something I call behavioral rehearsal, which is embodying the new identity before it feels normal and before the external reality has caught up. Now, I want to be really clear about what this means and doesn't, because I think fake it until you make it has kind of given this concept a bad rep, because they are absolutely not the same. I am not talking about the same thing here. And I used to say this too, fake it until you make it. But that was until I realized that faking it is kind of performative. And performance implies that you don't have it yet, which only amplifies the lack of not having, which again will only manifest more lack. Behavioral rehearsal is something different though. It's not performance, it's more like practice. Think about how any skills get learned. A painter doesn't just wait until they feel like a painter before they start to paint. They practice repeatedly, imperfectly, before it feels natural. And through that repetition, their identity as a painter forms. And the same is true for identity work. You don't wait until you feel like a confident, abundant, magnetic version of yourself before you start to act like her. You act like her now in small, specific and concrete ways. And through the repetition of those actions, the subconscious starts to update the picture of who you are. Every time you take aligned action and make new choices in the direction that the new version of you would make, even when it is uncomfortable or it feels unfamiliar, and even if the old identity are loudly protesting, you create new neural pathways in your subconscious mind that says, this is who I am now. This is normal for someone like me now. And when we are taking aligned action and making new choices in the direction or in alignment with who we want to become, that can feel extremely uncomfortable. And that discomfort is very important to understand, because it can easily be mistaken for doing something wrong, or that it doesn't work, or even that it is a sign from the universe or God that it is not meant for us. But more often than not, that feeling is just our ego protecting what feels familiar and known. Embodying a new version of yourself can genuinely feel threatening and destabilizing to the ego, even though it is something that you consciously want with everything you have. So to avoid ringing the ego's alarm bells, start small. Identify one behavior that you want to change, whether that is how you respond to a situation, how you speak about yourself, the small daily choices you are making, or the standards you hold to yourself. Then ask yourself, how would the version of me who already has what I desire show up here? And then simply start do that, even if it feels strange or awkward at first, because the awkwardness is just a gap between who you are now and who you are becoming. So keep walking and the gap will close. This is the tool most people think they already know how to do, but most people actually are doing this not in the most optimal way, and that is why they are not seeing any results either. Because most people are actually visualizing their desired reality from the outside, from a third-person perspective. They are imagining the house and the love and the dream life, like watching a movie of themselves having it. And while that is not without value, it is not what moves the needle on the subconscious level. Because watching yourself from the outside is still a state of separation. You are still the observer looking in. And the subconscious registers that separation as a desire or wanting, which actually is a state of not having. And most people naturally visualize in third-person perspective. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense, because there is something deeply satisfying about watching yourself living your dream life, isn't it? But that outside perspective is actually what keeps the subconscious from accepting it as real. But what actually works though is to kind of step into the reality, thinking from it rather than about it, which means visualizing in the first person, not observing yourself in the scene, but looking through your own eyes and feeling it from the inside, if that makes sense. And this can actually surprisingly be very hard at first, so be patient with yourself whilst you are practicing this. I already mentioned this earlier in the video, but it is worth mentioning again. So according to neuroscience, your subconscious mind cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and an experience that happened in real life. So when you are fully inhabiting an imagined scene, when you feel the emotional texture of it, when it engages your senses, and when it feels like a memory rather than a fantasy, your nervous system or your subconscious are responding as if it actually happened. Which means that new neural pathways are forming, new emotional data gets encoded, and the subconscious starts to build a picture of what is normal for you. Choose one short scene and not your entire dream life, even though that is very tempting, but choose one specific moment that would only exist if your desire were already real. Let's say that you want to manifest getting married. Then you could visualize a moment from your honeymoon where you can see the ring on your finger. Or if you want to manifest a promotion, then you could visualize someone congratulating you on that promotion. Keep the visualization very short and specific and focused on one thing, and don't try to manifest several things in one scene, and then simply just loop it over and over with full presence and genuine emotional engagement. Not from a state of desperation though, because desperation is still a state of lack. But with a calm, settled feeling of someone, this is simply true for someone who is remembering something that already happened rather than wishing for something that hasn't. And that is the frequency that we want to embody here. Calm certainty. As for how long to loop it, if you are doing it at night before bed, you are likely falling asleep whilst you are visualizing, which is actually perfectly fine. If you do this at some other times at the day, go as long as it feels good. If boredom or especially frustration or any other negative feelings arises or creeps in, then I would stop, because you don't want your subconscious to associate your desired reality with a negative emotion. And why does looping it or repeating it matter so much here? That is because repetition and emotional intensity is exactly the formula that your subconscious mind uses to encode anything as real. So you aren't doing anything revolutionary here, really. You are simply just using the same mechanism or language that programmed you in the first place. But now you are the one who are choosing the input. I prefer to do this at night, but doing it in the morning works very well too. And the reason those two windows are particularly powerful is because that our brain waves are slowed down into a theta state, which actually is the same state young children are in most of the time, which is why they absorb everything so effortlessly. But honestly, you can do this at any time. The most important thing is that you feel relaxed, that it feels real, and that it feels good. So let's bring it back to where we started. Your subconscious has already been brainwashed. It happened through your environment, through your interactions with others, through repetition, and through emotional experiences that shaped you into who you currently believe yourself to be. It became a part of your self-concept, the lens through which you see everything. But that process didn't stop when you grew up. It is still running, right now, today. Your subconscious is being programmed constantly by every input you allow in, every behavior you repeat, and emotional experiences you create or avoid. The difference now is that you know exactly how this works now, which means that you get to choose. By using your discernment, you get to choose what is getting programmed. You get to choose what you allow into your subconscious, and what will become normal for you, and what your subconscious learns to expect for someone like you. And that is not magic, that is literally just how your mind works. And now you know as well how to brainwash yourself into your desired reality. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, babe!